From the Apollo rockets to new drugs to treat HIV, some scientific advances are obtained in dubious ways. Should we make peace with using their findings? There are few corners of scientific progress that are not tainted at some point in their history by immoral or unethical behavior. Physics, biology, zoology, medicine, psychology, vaccine science, anthropology, genetics, nutrition, engineering, all are rife with discoveries made in circumstances that can be described as unethical, even illegal. How should we feel about making use of that knowledge, especially when it could be of great service to civilization and even save lives? Post World War II, the Allied forces snapped up some of the Nazi innovations. Nerve agents such as tabun and sarin, which would fuel the development of new insecticides as well as weapons of mass destruction, the anti-malarial chloroquine, methadone, and methamphetamines, as well as medical research into hypothermia, hypoxia, dehydration, and more, were all generated on the back of human experiments in concentration camps. Particle boards, forms of synthetic rubber, and the soft drink Fanta were also developed by the Germans under Nazi rule. The brilliant rocket scientist Werner von Braun, who worked for US post World War II, was a Nazi. Von Braun's presence on the Apollo program, moon landing, was no outlier. More than 120 German scientists and engineers joined him there. They were among 1600 scientists recruited by spies as a part of Operation Paperclip at the end of World War II, all shielded from prosecution, given safe passage to the US, and allowed to continue their work. Several German scientists who helped to send NASA's Apollo missions to the moon had previously worked on the V-2 rockets for the Nazis. Thousands of people were victims to pseudo-medical studies carried out in Auschwitz-Birkenau, where prominent doctors pertaining to the Nazi apparatus ignored all ethical concerns and took advantage of the chance to experiment with thousands of prisoners against their will. But this was far from a one-off injection of unethical research into the scientific record. US doctors in the 1940s intentionally infected unsuspecting patients with sexually transmitted infections to study the diseases. Conscious of the outcry this might generate, the experiments were performed in Guatemala. Echoing the Guatemala syphilis studies, many clinical trials are to this day carried out in developing nations for arguably the same reasons. Regulations are more lax, and the risk of bad press from any negative outcomes is lessened. A 2008 report published by the Center for Research on Multinational Corporations revealed details of many such unethical trials carried out in India, Nigeria, Russia, Argentina, and Nepal, among others. It revealed the unrecorded deaths of 14 women in Uganda during a trial of anti-HIV transmission drug nevirapine. The polio vaccine and many other medical advances besides owes its existence to human cells that were taken from Henrietta Lacks without her knowledge or consent and who never saw any compensation from their commercialization. The cell line grown from those initial samples have been used in countless research into drugs, toxins, viruses, and also have been used to study the human genome. Werner von Braun's contribution to the Apollo space program may have been considerable, but it's impossible to say whether NASA could not have figured out how to land on the moon without his help and the knowledge he obtained while working on the Nazis' V-2 rocket program. It is not controversial to argue that these experiments should never have happened. But now they have. What should be done with the information they generated? There is something very particular about knowledge that it is irreversible. You can't unknow something. It's human nature to try to draw some good out of bad situations. Even in the Warsaw Ghetto, Jewish doctors made meticulous notes on their fellow residents' health, the data which was smuggled out and later published as a landmark study on the effects of starvation disease. A decision to use the data should not be made without regret or without acknowledging the incomprehensible horror of the Nazi research that produced them. We cannot imply any approval of the methods, nor, however, should we let the inhumanity of the experiments blind us to the possibility that some good may be salvaged from the ashes.